Hi, welcome to this video. This is a bit of a divergence from the sort of video that I would normally make and put up on this channel. However, a friend of mine asked about like recommendations for stim tools or stim toys. I kind of go between those two terms. And I thought actually probably the easiest way to show her what I've got and noises they make and stuff like that was to do a video. So this might just go to that person. I might share it with Ko-fi members. I might just put it up as like an extra video. But yeah, I just thought I would talk you through what I've got in this crate of mine. And I do actually have a second crate for slightly different, I suppose you may call them like disability aids. That's kind of how I see all of these things. I think for me, stimming consciously is something that really only I've been doing for a couple of years, since sort of learning about what autism is and what stimming is and the benefits for autistic people to stim. I would say probably most of my stimming is still unconscious, and the problem that I had historically, although sometimes it does rear its head, is that sometimes my stimming has been and can be self-injurious. So a lot of these tools I use are about redirecting stimming. So for example, I might be doing something and then catch myself do it, and then I'll pick up something like this instead. Or increasingly, I'm getting better at kind of recognizing the situations where that's going to come up and then bringing it in as like a preventative thing, or yeah, I suppose knowing situations where I might want or need to like fidget more and then doing so. And then I guess the other important thing is there's lots of different types of stimming, depending on like your different senses. So for example, dancing and spinning around a room can be one form of stimming for some people, and some people get a lot out of that. For me, I usually end up very like dizzy and that kind of thing. So most of the stimming that I do is, I would say, visual and tactile. I suppose auditory sometimes with music and certain sounds and stuff, but the majority of what you see here is about the visual and about the tactility of it. So yeah, I'll just make a start before I witter on too much. I'm by no means like a professional when it comes to talking about autism. It's just really based on my own experiences. But I have also read like a bunch of scientific papers and things just to try and learn more. So yeah, as far as I know, all the language that I'm using is going to be like appropriate and that. But if, you know, I say anything like dodgy by accident, do feel free to comment below, because I want to learn and make sure that I'm, I suppose, like considerate of other people's experiences as well. So yeah, anyway, so the first thing, which is like my go-to, this is my favourite stim tool. This is a slinky from the Science Museum in London. I think it was seeing Megan use one of these like in her videos, and specifically the Science Museum one, that kind of prompted me to grab one initially. I think shortly after I'd started watching her videos, I had a trip to London and to the museums, and I picked one up. That was maybe like 2 or 3 years ago now. And what I will say is it shrunk, by which I mean I would put it in a pocket or a bag or something. And what happens with slinkies over time is that the plastic weakens, and so sometimes it kind of gets tangled on itself. But rather than stopping using it, because it has been my favourite, I would trim it down. So it got down to about 1/3 of the size of this one here. And I was making do with it, but it was losing its edge, I suppose. But I went down to London a couple of weeks ago and I actually grabbed 3. So I now have this one, which is like the one that I'm primarily using, but then I've got backups for when this does kind of start, I suppose, disintegrating, or I'm having to shrink it down to a point where it's not as like helpful for me to use. So the main thing with the Slinky is the feeling of it in my hand, and there's different ways I'll stim with this. And to be honest, pretty much any video where you've seen me with this, you'll see me stim. I think one of the main ways is like this, and a common thing is like running my thumb down the ridges like that. That also makes quite a nice sound, which is cool. And then from a visual point of view, something that I will do sometimes is kind of create an arch like this. It's kind of difficult to show from a top-down view, but if I'm feeling energetic, I might do a cutaway. And just kind of wiggling it like this, and then like as I'm seeing it now, there's like a blurry rainbow kind of pattern, which is kind of fun. So yeah, that's a go-to. I suppose the only other thing to note is, because Slinkies are like quite popular objects and people have a lot of nostalgia for them, in public, it often invites people to make conversation with you about it. And depending on how I'm feeling on a particular day and how like able to talk I'm feeling, it ranges from being fine to feeling really like quite awful, to have a stranger just come up and start talking to you about their childhood and how much they love this thing. Like most of the time, if I'm not at work but I'm out in public, I really don't want to really be spoken to. I'm already dealing with like sensory overload and stuff like that most of the time. So I suppose it's just a little bit of a heads up or a warning there, that sometimes people will just be like, oh, is that a Slinky? Yes, it is. Oh, I used to have one of these when I was 8 and I play with it down the stairs. And then it does sometimes invite people to go like, why do you have it? And that kind of thing. And then suddenly it's like, oh, right, okay, we're talking about my, my like neurotype all of a sudden. So yeah, just a bit of a warning, I suppose, with the Slinky. I feel like I'm going to end up with like a real mess here, but we'll move on. I suppose kind of Slinky adjacent. This is a recent addition for me. I think really my most recent stim that I got. So this is some sort of rainbow plastic fidget thing. This is from The Works in the UK, which is kind of like, I suppose for like people in the US or in Australia, kind of like a dollar store type of thing. So I think there's probably like a branded fancy version of this item, and then they've done their own version. This has been really helpful for keeping in a pocket, because like it gets kind of long like that, but actually it compresses down quite well. And it's the input I get from it is very similar to the Slinkies. It's largely about how these ridges feel against my hand, and also then the feeling of like the squishiness doing that, and it also sort of squidges that way. But then also, because it's that rainbow pattern again, you kind of, if you do that quite a bit, you kind of get that same rainbow feeling. So that's been a good one. I think the only thing for me, because I'm a bit I don't know how to describe it, I'm also always very like conscious of dirt and things that could like make me poorly. So I got this, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks ago, and I've just seen there's like quite a bit of dust building up in these like diamond shapes in the middle. So I might see if I can just wash this in warm soapy water, and if that will do it, or if I can somehow maybe like a cotton swab or something might be the way to approach that. So yeah, that's a cool one, and I think maybe that cost a couple of quid, which is also helpful. There's this item, which potentially is probably better in my secondary box that I'll talk to you in a bit, but this is like a head massager, head scratcher thing. I think I got this from Flying Tiger. A few different places get this, have this, sorry. So yeah, it's just for the, you know, the sensory input of that like scalp massage feeling. I wouldn't say I use it loads. It tends to be like that I have this crate in my office where I film and stuff. And now and again I'll remember it exists, and then I'll do a little massage and think, oh yeah, that's great, and then I'll put it down for a while. I suppose next, these are quite a popular item, so I've got some tangles. I think I probably used these more a couple of years ago. I would use these a lot when I was working in my corporate job, so I would spend most of my days in back-to-back video calls, and my hands were out of shot, so I would typically have either my slinky on my desk or one of these tangles. They're good, they're handy. They're another good one to keep in your pocket because, you know, they flatten essentially, and you can get different colours, you can get different textures, which I feel like if I had one of the textured ones, that would probably make me more inclined to use it. And then yeah, you can get them with like glittery bits on. I think the thing that sometimes gets me with the tangles is the noise. I really don't like the noise they make, so there's something about that makes me quite uncomfortable. So I would typically really these days only use it if I've got headphones on, or maybe if like we're watching television and the television's like loud enough to mask some of the noise. Yeah, I feel like it's the sort of stim that I really got a lot out of at one point, have kind of fallen out of love with a bit, but then we'll probably come back to it at some point. I think most commonly for me, I kind of like wrap it around my fingers and stuff. That's typically how I stim with it. Like I am now, like I didn't think about what I was doing before I started doing it, but I have seen people like kind of pass it through their hands almost like rosary beads. I've seen people do this sort of thing with it. That doesn't like work for me, but there's a few ways. A common way I'll do it is like, yeah, looping like all of it one finger and then like breaking it up and starting again. Next, this is not one I use loads, but it's good fun. So one of my particular interests is, I guess you'd say like the paranormal, Halloween, ghosts, and I have a little ghost collection. This was in Sainsbury's last Halloween, or maybe the Halloween before, and then I saw it and it caught my eye and everything, but I left it. But then when everything went on sale post Halloween, that's when I picked this up, and this is very much a visual one for me. It's daylight, so you're not really going to be able to see, but there's a red, green and blue light in here, and they kind of flicker and change a little bit the longer you hold it down for. But I also really like the sound of the motor in this. I've got a train going past, so hopefully that noise isn't picking up, but this isn't the noise it makes. So that's that. I have some bubbles to blow in here. I've not used these. My partner actually got me these as a little gift a while ago. I might put these down in our kitchen because I feel like I'm far more likely to actually use these if they're near the garden, because I'm not going to like blow bubbles in here. I'm going to put this one to the side. I suppose next, a couple that are kind of adjacent to one another. Oh, I didn't say it, where my tangles were from, sorry. So this is an official Tangle Creations one. I actually found it in a pound shop. So I think online these go for like £7 or £8, but in the pound shop I think it was, yeah, £1 or £2. And then these ones, I got an orange one and I'd got a black one, and then I just like blended them together. And this is from Chewy Gem. So I think I got this from a website that like specialises in autistic aids, and it's jewellery. So I don't know if you're supposed to chew these sorts of tangles, but I have sometimes used these as an oral stim as well. So yeah, moving to these ones, this is like what I call like a stim cube or fidget cube, and then this is like a clicky thing, or rolling. Yeah, it kind of clicks, kind of rolls. So this is another one that I found in a pound shop. I think it might have been Home Bargains, and it has lots of different auditory stims, although some of them don't make a sound, I suppose. But yeah, it's a lot about the tactility. So you've got like a switch here, like a light switch, this that you can roll your thumb across, buttons, a little rolling ball thing, this one, and this one's like a thumb pad on like a games console. I should keep this on me more because yeah, it's good. So yeah, it's mostly about the tactile input, but then some of them make noises as well. Again, I think this is another one that's quite good if you are wanting to be like fairly subtle, like if you're in a workplace or you're in public and it's maybe in your pocket or something. Yeah, I think I like the switch one a lot myself, and I also like the thumb pad one, because I find it's something I was going to touch on in a bit, but I find like I get a lot of enjoyment from video games, and I think part of that is like the feeling of holding the controller and the feeling of the thumb pads. So yeah, that was like Home Bargains. And then there's this clicky rolly thing here. I will put the person's Etsy shop below because they do lots of different stim tools that I think are quite unique, and they often do them in quite cute colourways as well. I just can't remember the name, but yeah, I got that from that person. Again, the size means that this is good for a pocket. The noise is quite good on this, I think. Yeah, that's the better way. And then yeah, the tactile feeling of the ridges is part of what I like with that one. Next, I've got this hourglass. So my grandparents had a caravan up in North Wales, and they had some hourglasses like this, and me and my siblings were absolutely fascinated by it. Like, you could sit us in front of one of these and we would just be we'd shut up basically. So like I'm the first person in the family to get diagnosed as autistic, and hopefully they won't mind me saying this, but I think pretty much everyone else is as well, but just hasn't been like assessed. So we were stimming with this, like we didn't even know it. What next? Oh, okay, so I guess I'll do the Nido products. So this one I think is called the Nice Cube, and yeah, I think a lot of people online, like there was a flurry of like autistic creators acquiring these. I don't know if people were like sponsored or what, and I thought I'd give it a go. Normally I don't like things that have this like plasticky rubbery feel, and I wouldn't say I use this absolutely tons because of that. Like sometimes I don't mind it so much, sometimes I feel really gross about it. And then for my birthday that same year, my sibling got me this one as a birthday gift. So it's a different colour and it's got this sort of rough-ish texture on it as well, so it feels a bit different. The thing with this is quite similar to this, with the like sort of dirt and dust concern, is the material here really attracts dust. So I have to wash these semi-regularly. Like, I don't know if it's picking up on the camera or not, but you can kind of see the dust picking up here and here where the letters are. So yeah, I'm a bit hot and cold with these. It's good to kind of have them here because the input of these is very different from everything else. So if I'm wanting that like squashy feeling, then I know I've got these to reach for. So kind of similar to the Tangles, but not quite. I've got this like clicky chain thing. I think I may have just bought this from an eBay shop, but I'm pretty sure you can get it in like children's toy shops as well. And this comes in different colourways as well. I kind of got this one pink and blue. I think I got it because of like trans rights basically. So this one again folds down, so it's pretty small. You know, you can lay it like flat in a pocket. And yeah, it's very much about like how this feels in the hand. So this one I tend to just do this, I think. And then yeah, you got that like clicky sound. And to me that clicky sound is far more satisfying than the sound of the Tangle. So I think I probably reach for this more than my Tangles currently. Next up, I suppose, is like what you'd call a classic stim. Everyone was mad for these a few years ago. I've got a fidget spinner is what I meant. So yeah, we all know what these are. For me, it's the visual, because I got this like oil spill iridescent colourway, but also I really like the sound. So there's that. I don't go for that one loads, but it's good fun. Sometimes if I'm trying to think or if I'm bored or something, that's what I'll go to. This is something I got way before I knew what stimming was. This was probably the first thing that I would take to work. So these are known as worry stones. I think I bought this from someone on Etsy as well. So this is a piece of selenite, and I've always been sort of drawn to crystals and that sort of thing. I wouldn't say I'm someone who like wholeheartedly like believes in the properties that they have, but I like that they have those associations, and I suppose it's like I just like applying meaning to things and symbolism. So the idea of selenite, I believe, is the idea that it's like purifying and cleansing. So me taking that into a workspace, I kind of liked the idea that it was like refreshing me in some way. So again, handy because it's small, and it's got this flower of life, I think is the pattern on it, so it's quite visually nice. And with selenite as well, when you move it, it sort of sparkles in the light, so that's quite a nice visual thing again. This is like I think in Flying Tiger it was called an IQ puzzle. It might have a different name. And essentially, you know, you've got to fix the puzzle and unloop the circles sort of thing. I have done it, can do it, but my stimming with it often is just more random and more fidgety like this. So sometimes I will stim by doing the puzzle, but more likely than not, usually it's just, yeah, fidgeting. You know, it's shiny, so that's nice, but I also just like the sound of the metal clinking. This was kind of a whim, this one. It's not a go-to, but it's all right, and it's quite small as well. So if you're wanting something in a pocket, again, helpful from that perspective. This next one is something that I made last year when I was going through a bit of a phase making beaded objects. I did a few like necklaces and book charms and that sort of thing. And I think this just about fits me as a necklace. I'm just going to quickly try it on. Yeah, so I could wear that as like a choker. That could be cute. Sometimes I will wrap it around my wrist like a bracelet. But I've built it intentionally to be a bit of a stim thing. So we can see we've got these skull beads on here. We've got these like sort of rubbery, whoa, where are we? These like rubbery charms and beads of different textures and sizes as well. So this again is one that I quite like as quite a subtle stim, where I can put this on, you know, like it's a bracelet or something, but then to stim with, I will do a few different things. So sometimes it's stretching the elastic, often it's like passing it through my hand like rosary beads. Sometimes I'll like, you know, loop it over my thumb like that and get the feedback in my palm. Yeah, there's a few different ways I will use this. Sometimes it is just a matter of even, yeah, fidgeting and putting it on like that. And then the last thing in this crate is a massage ring. So I think it was, I can't remember the name, but it was a company that makes the acupuncture mats that you lie on. They also do these rings, and the idea of it is that you roll it up and down your fingers, and I think they say, you know, do it 20 times for each finger, and you know, it's supposed to be quite calming, and I'm already sort of feeling that doing this again. So I mentioned a bit earlier on about self-injurious stims and the idea of pain stimming. I think it was Lexi from Lex and Law. I think she mentioned having something like this to help redirect from behaviours that she's had or experiences. And you know, there's a few things here that give tactile input that's maybe a little bit sharp, a little bit spikier, but not on the same level as this. So this is really helpful for when I am doing that like pain related stimming. Yeah, I need to keep this out on my desk more, I think. Just doing this now, I'm like, oh yeah, God, this is like, I can feel like my brain getting massaged. So yeah, that's like the stim things. And then I do have a second crate, which I kind of consider more about soothing and relief and calming. So I'm going to put everything away and then I'll show you what's in that secondary crate. So here's the secondary crate. So this is often things I will reach for if I'm feeling overstimulated and maybe on the brink of a shutdown or a meltdown. I try and keep it fairly minimal. So firstly, we've got my overhead earphones. These are the Bose Quiet Comfort 45. Probably the best headphones I've ever had. The only thing I find that's like a downside with overhead earphones is that sometimes the pressure on the side of my head is too much. Sometimes I get quite sweaty wearing them, so I have to just think to myself for a moment, actually, is this going to do more harm than good? Normally I'm all right, but you know, that happens sometimes. Next up is a neck fan. So I've got a friend who has a few health issues, and she was wearing one of this when we were out to dinner once, and I was like, that's genius. And me and my partner, I think we must have been absolutely like so keen on these because we both got them for Christmas. So now it's getting hotter. I think I'm probably going to start keeping this in my bag that I take to work, but for the time being I've been keeping it in here. Next up is like a little photo album. So this is actually a what is it? This is listed as a business card, like folder or wallet, however you might want to put it, from Muji, but it's just the right size to keep Instax photos in. So the idea for me is that if I'm feeling overwhelmed and upset or something like that, I can have a quick look through here and be reminded of nice times, and times with family and my partner and friends and stuff. Next up, this is something that I've used for my yoga practice in the past, but I've not been doing that so much lately. So it's more of a relief thing. And it's a weighted eye mask. So you put it over your eyes when you're lying down, and it's just like good sort of deep pressure on the eyes. And it's got some lavender in as well, so it's nice and calming. This is supposed to be connected to this. 1 second. So here we've got a breakaway version of the sunflower lanyard. So I wear the like traditional one out and about. This is more of a backup. The breakaway element is good because like if I need to take it off quickly I can. However, what I find is that the bit of plastic that sits at the back of the neck can often be actually overstimulating and annoying. So this is why it's the backup. I've got a pair of loops on here. So day to day I carry around the engage loops, which are the ones that help block out background sound, but you can still hear conversation quite well. And then these are the ones that are to just block out as much as possible. And then I've just got a pom-pom on there. This is arguably another stim, but I've just got it on there so like it's a bit big and easy to like grab in here. So yeah, it's a lovely soft texture, which is, you know, quite a calming thing in itself. My partner got me for Christmas this keyring, which has some nice photos of us on. I'm just trying to think if there's anything here that's not as explicit. That's cute. I'm not going to show you this just because I'm not sure how comfortable she is with everybody seeing her face. But yeah, it's a nice selection of pictures. She wasn't as happy with the like quality of this as I think I am. And I suppose the only annoying thing is that to like make the pictures go away again, you kind of have to wind it up and it gets sort of stuck and that sometimes. But again, it's a bit like that little photo album. It's just nice to kind of look at them and be reminded of nicer times. It's quite a calming thing. Next, I suppose, is a collection of lip balms, moisturizers, that kind of thing. So I think one of the first forms of stimming that I really ever noticed in myself was licking my lips a lot, biting my lips a lot, chewing the inside of my mouth, and sometimes like picking around the nails. And then that kind of morphed into a prolific use of lip balm. Like I would catch myself biting my lip and I'd be like, no, do this instead. So these are here just for, you know, on my hands, because I really can't describe enough how gross and horrible it feels when my skin is dry, particularly on my hands. So if I'm feeling like I need some body lotion or some lip balm or anything, I know I'm always going to be able to find like a couple of different options in here. And a lot of the times these will smell and or taste nice too. And then a couple of last things that are not used frequently but can be very useful is some communication cards that I drew up, I think maybe a year or so ago now. I had some that I kept in my bag, but those got wet because I haven't laminated them. But these I can use at home. So if I am experiencing a period where I can't talk, or I'm really struggling to talk, or if I can talk, I can't express my like bodily needs, usually I will send my partner WhatsApp messages, but these are a good alternative to that. And I always sort of think of it as a bit like in football, like showing a yellow card or showing a red card because of the size they are. And then this is an autistic care plan, which describes what my accommodations are, and what sort of support I need. So I have a copy of this that I keep in my bag when I'm out. So then if, I don't know, something happened, a medical person could find it. But then I don't know, I kind of like the idea of having one here as well. I suppose it's a bit of a backup, I guess. So yeah, that's everything in like the calm, what I think of as like the calm box. And what's helpful about these crates is that they stack. So these sit in my office and stack like so. And they're very easy to get to. And if something, you know, I said this could potentially be in the calm box instead, that categorization and differentiating between the two, it's just an internal judgment thing on my part, rather than it actually making a difference about how quick and easy the stuff is to access. So yeah, that's everything to show you really today. Hopefully that's been like informative and useful, particularly for the person I've actually like made this for. But if you, person I've made this for, or anyone else watching maybe has questions about where I've got stuff from, how stuff is useful, that kind of thing, either, you know, get in touch on like Instagram or WhatsApp in the instance of the person who knows me, or comment down below and I'll come back to you as soon as I can. Right, thank you for watching. Bye bye.